First, Donald Trump spoke for an hour and a half with Vladimir Putin. Then the American president spoke for an hour with Volodymyr Zelenskyy to discuss the latest developments on Ukraine and their possible meaning for achieving peace and security. I'm joined by Artur Nowak-Far, professor at the Warsaw School of Economics. Welcome to the program and thank you for joining me.
Hello, thank you.
So the talks took place only recently, major breakthrough. What's your opinion? Are we closer to peace than ever before, or this is going to be a long-distance run? I mean, we've heard from Donald Trump before on many different ideas, and he likes to talk.
It's very difficult to answer your question, definitely, because we do not know much about the details of the conversation. We know that they were talking, well, peace and war. We know that with Mr. Zelenskyy, President Trump discussed not only the question of peace, but also indulged in a discussion concerning the technology, military technology, which is rather indicative that the conversation was not only about the peace, but also focused, at least to some extent, on the war. And, well, that is what we know. To answer
what are the expectations?
Well,
that's what we know.
The expectations, of course, are that they seem to trigger the conversation, or maybe not the negotiations, but pre-negotiations for peace, because, well, Ukraine wants peace, and of course, President Trump, well, wants peace because he wants to make the peace to be one of his major achievements. But we don't know what the stance of President Putin is, and what his maybe not mandate, but the opening negotiation position is.
So what do you think? How did that happen, that Mr. Donald Trump actually managed to get Vladimir Putin to talk with him and possibly push him towards the negotiating table?
Well, your question implies that, Mr. Trump pushed Mr. Putin to the negotiations table.
Maybe convince perhaps would be a better word.
Yes, something like that would be a better word, because I don't think that was about the pressure. That was rather about, some different but existing interests from the American side and from the Russian side to get together and maybe discuss something, whatever it is. And we have to note also that the Russian side somehow opened that negotiations in a Soviet-style way. They sweetened the beginning of the negotiations by freeing up some prisoners, American prisoners, which they had kept in the prisons and various camps. And that is the strategy normally observed also in the Soviet times, where they wanted to discuss something major with the foreign or Western counterparty. They sweetened. So
a similar handbook.
Yeah, the
similar
handbook, which could be considered to be a good sign, and the sign of the genuine willingness to get to the table and to maybe discuss peace.
So Mr. Trump was invited by Vladimir Putin to come to Moscow. Can you actually envisage both of these presidents meeting in Moscow to talk?
Well, I can envisage, because the invitation is the invitation. But it's very difficult to envisage the details, and I suppose they are now. I mean, the teams of both sides are now discussing the very diligently the details of that meeting, including the width of the table, including the entire itinerary minute by minute and the scene in which it would happen, because whenever you accept such an invitation, the invitation to Moscow to discuss things, well, you have to be sure as an American that, well, your president will be treated well, and that, well, your opening stance wouldn't be deteriorated, let's say, artificially, and well, that requires a diligent work which would, well, press the Russian side to organize it in a fair way.
We've heard from Mr. Hegseth, who is the defense secretary now. We've heard him speak about Europe and NATO countries in Europe having to take the majority of the responsibility when it comes to peacekeeping in Ukraine. We've heard from Mr. Zelenskyy, who said that Europe alone cannot provide meaningful security guarantees to Ukraine. Is Europe not ready? And considering a number of meetings that are currently taking place and the preparation of the European Union, how long is it going to take us to get there to be able to provide that security guarantee?
Well, I think that is a major hurdle, major obstacle, because I don't think Europe at present is able to provide the meaningful guarantees, because the guarantees of sovereignty of Ukraine, of being free of any future aggression requires strength, military strength. And at this moment, as we speak, Europe does not have it enough. And that means that, we should consider that, stage setting from the American side as a part of the pressure on the European partners to be ready militarily as soon as possible to take up those responsibilities.
We know that Mr. Scott Bessent, who is U.S. Treasury Secretary, made his way to Kyiv. He touched down in Kyiv today, and he's going to have a meeting about the natural resources. We also heard from Mr. Hegseth about those dynamics when it comes to peacekeeping. Do you think that Ukraine is in a position right now, when it comes to rare minerals, to negotiate the security guarantees with the U.S. in any capacity? Or is it off the table completely?
No, it's not off the table completely. They have the resources. They can offer it. The Americans seem to be very eager to conclude a kind of an agreement with the Ukrainians. And definitely the trade over here is quite likely, quite possible, and may I say that even more feasible than, the European partners taking that role immediately. So what I think might happen very likely is that the Americans will guarantee the peace first, and there would be some kind of an agreement of a turnover of or taking over this role by the European partners when they are ready.
Definitely, this is going to be a topic of conversation, heated conversation. We're planning to find out what the conversations are about, but this definitely needs time. But there is a lot happening, a lot on the table when it comes to Ukraine. Thank you so much for joining me in the studio. Artur Nowak-Far, professor at the Warsaw School of Economics. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so this would be all for now here on World News Tonight, but please do stay tuned. We're back in just a moment on TVP World with more news and features.